here's dinner conversation we won't be having tonight when our children get home. We're going to talk about the Diddy story. I think I should put a disclaimer on this. I didn't want to do it, and Clayton made me do this story. So we're going to do it, and we're going to take a look at it, and it's yucky, you guys. So you got to put on your big boy pants to see this stuff. I'm ready for further questions of what's left out, what the government knows and doesn't know, but we're going to go through it. So here we go. Sean Diddy Combs was arrested by Homeland Security agents at a New York City hotel on Monday, and the indictment was unsealed this morning. Today, that's Tuesday. And you guys, this stuff is dark and it runs deep, as in every song you may have ever liked in your life that you listen to on the radio may be connected to a demonic sex ring. Yes. So brace yourself. This is the worst case scenario. Okay.
Okay.
You're upset about this that maybe there's music that's not connected to this. You think that your taste is not engineered.
I listen to a lot of 80s music. I listen to a lot of jazz, so hopefully there's not crazy.
Okay,
Diddy
I like a lot of polka. Hopefully there's no demonic polka rings, but we'll see. That's actually true.
I love Pink Floyd. I hope they're not associated with this in any way.
Okay, well, we're going to see. So brace yourself. The government has thrown the book at Diddy for prostitution, coercion, enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotic offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. All of that is listed in this indictment. Here's what it looks like if you want to take a look for yourself, so you know I'm not making anything up. Now, not listed here is anything related to minors, and we're going to get to that in a second. Worth mentioning, though, that this is what the government alleges. This is what they think they can successfully prosecute. They present evidence to a grand jury, and the grand jury decides if they can arrest this person and move the case forward. Now, Combs will have the chance to defend himself, and his lawyer says that he's innocent of all of this. So if he fights this and says, I didn't do it, the government will say, well, here's a big steaming plate of evidence. And so will he actually do that? The lawyer says he will fight like hell to get his client released on bail. That's not likely, but we'll see. I mean, it would be a bajillion dollars. I would think they've already taken his passport. The government says they have copious amounts of evidence since their extensive raid on his properties and his electronics. Here is prosecutor Damian Williams summarizing that evidence.
During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether. Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there.
So people in the chat are saying freak off. What did he say? Freak off?
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
that's in the indictment.
I'm going to show you what that is right now.
At first, I heard free Goths, and I was like, is that like Visigoths or the I was like literally thinking like Germanic tribes of medieval, but okay, freak off.
Yeah, freak offs. And
freak offs. Okay, here we go. Let's let him explain it. You don't need to. The prosecutor does a pretty good job. Go ahead.
As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson.
Okay. So
the least of it seems to be the guns. Like, who cares about the guns at this point?
it was just the method to which he kept all that going. I mean, when you have so many sex orgy parties that you have a name for them, like, do you put that in your calendar? Like, hey, I'm going to need to clear a few days for a freak off. Can you please? And it was so organized that he had his staff setting it up.
Yes.
Like, I need all the baby oil.
Well, that's
and
my thing.
wipes.
Who on his staff is like in charge of the cases of baby oil?
And then they would go in and clean it up afterwards. Now, it was such an exertion for these
victims.
Victims that they were just, I guess, continually graping without a G, that they had to have IVs. In fact, here's what the government says is that after these freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. So not only did they have all this set up, they had a freak-off kit that included IV for Combs himself because it was such an Olympic event. It's wild. Now, the government says that they have seen this for themselves. We heard about these in other court cases, but the government says they've seen it based on what they seized in the raids. Now, as a taxpayer, this is when we need to acknowledge that we appreciate law enforcement because they watched this and they took action. So at least we can give credit where credit is due. They say, again, that this is the stuff of nightmares. But important question is, how long have they known? Because this has been going on allegedly since at least 2008. Someone in the chat brings up a good point. Remember when JLo says she didn't know that he was involved in gang activity, but she was in and around a shooting when she was dating him in the 1999 and 2001 to 2001, I believe. So some people knew he was involved in some bad stuff for a very long time. Who, why, and who was kept from it? Now, interestingly enough, he was arrested on September 15th, 2024. 1 year ago, September 15th, 2023, he was in New York City getting the key to the city from Mayor Adams. Watch this.
He already has the keys to some pretty exclusive places, and now Sean Diddy Combs can add New York City to that list. It's Diddy Day in the city. Videos have been playing on the Jumbotron for TSX Broadway, and the crowd waited. Then around 11:30, the doors opened for the mayor and the artist.
The bad boy of entertainment is getting the key to the city from the bad boy of politics.
I want to thank y'all for this honor and just recognizing me being from New York, giving me the key to the city. Diddy finally has the key to the city.
Today's event coincides with the release of his new album, The Love Album, Off the Grid.
Okay. I wonder if that key works on jail cells. They might want to make sure that's not the case. That aged fast and rotten, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, on to the major piece of this. Who helped him? Because obviously you need a staff to hold freak-offs and to get people in there and to clean it up and give you all your props. Well, the government says he did have a lot of help from people both known and unknown, they say, participating in unlawful and other activities related to his affair. Now, no one else is named in this indictment, not his sons, not his bodyguard or anyone yet. But they say they're just getting started. But we can put some things together based on other cases against Combs, most famously the Lil Rod case, Rodney Jones' lawsuit against P. Diddy. Now, his bodyguard, Fahim Muhammad, is referred to many times in that case, which is still ongoing. He was the head of Combs' security, and he was known as his fixer because he had connections within law enforcement. What they said is if someone got killed, if someone got abused, if someone got hurt, if someone got in any trouble, Mr. Muhammad could fix it, they say, because he had the power to disappear people and problems. Well, who was this Mr. Muhammad? Ian Carroll, friend of the show, has been looking into this for months, and here's how he describes this.
One of the ways that Diddy had law enforcement under control was through his chief of security, Fahim Muhammad, who the whole staff was allegedly told to contact if anything ever went wrong with police or law enforcement, and he would be the fixer that would make it all disappear. Well, Fahim Muhammad is the former head of security for Michael Jackson. This kid had just graduated college with like a business degree, and he became the head of security for the King of Pop at age 21 or 22. And then, whoopsies, that same year, head of Pop died. This guy was second on the scene. And then his very next job, after failing, was to become the head of Diddy's entire operation. Think about it. The head of security in a blackmail ring needs to know all the dirt, otherwise he's not securing shit. Diddy formed his record label in the first place with a lot of help, basically being selected by Clive Davis, who's got a lot of mob ties and other stuff in his history. But he's been running huge portions of the music industry before we were all born. We're talking back to signing names originally like Janis Joplin, Pink Floyd, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I say all of that to just show you the scope that this is not just one rapper doing bad things. This is the whole music industry. This is how it runs. Diddy is not an isolated incident. He is the status quo. And chances are he was not the only blackmail ring operating in the music industry.
You guys. Okay.
And there's a lot to dig into with Fahim as well.
Let's just go a little bit deeper, right? Because actually Ian Carroll's work on Fahim Muhammad, we're going to talk about that more, is how I became aware of his work, because his connection to Michael Jackson, which he lays out in this video, I just want to show it to you. Screenshot this and watch it later because it's wild. This was published in March, and it raises more questions than we have answers to. Makes me want to apologize to Michael Jackson for believing smear campaigns about him. Now, more about this Mr. Muhammad. Diddy himself shared this last year. Mr. Muhammad bought land for his son on the southern border, right next to the border wall. Why? Because that's a good place to get people to participate in your freak-outs. Freak-offs, right. Presumably, right? We don't know. Now, here was a local CBS station in San Diego covering it last year. Now, keep in mind, what they're saying is Diddy told us that this guy on his staff bought this southern borderland, and they're like, let's go take a look. Watch how this video ages, which is still live on the CBS station. Watch. We're going to watch it in its entirety.
40 acres of land in San Diego County. That's what one dad gave his son for his 13th birthday.
He posted about it on social media, and their story went viral. Rapper Sean Combs even posted about it. CBS 8's Anna Laurel went to Boulevard, that's about an hour east of our newsroom, to see what they're going to do with all that land.
We're not just out here in the middle of nowhere. Look how close we are to the border wall with Mexico. Now, when we were driving out here, all I saw were a bunch of boulders and a few trees. But when Fahim Muhammad came out here, all he saw was potential.
we see clear space that we uninterruptedly we can enjoy nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uninterrupted.
Especially growing up in the city, a congested city like LA. When we're out here, I mean, it's totally different.
Fahim Muhammad bought 198 acres out here in Boulevard to get away.
It's real quiet.
The border wall is right behind them, you guys. The border wall.
He lives in Los Angeles and runs a real estate business that buys and rebuilds properties in the south side of Chicago. He says to create a better living situation for the black community there.
Based on what's happening with this renovation right here.
His company, Oasis Investment Group, even teaches people home ownership.
These are people that have had families on government assistance for years, and now they're actually enrolling in courses to learn how to buy their own homes.
Fahim says his mom taught he and his siblings how important it is to own your own property and to help their community. So when his son Fahim recently turned 13, he gave him 40 acres.
I thought it would be a great opportunity to teach him a life lesson about the value of land.
And they're teaching other kids from LA these lessons too.
So all them regular rocks you picked?
They bring inner city kids out here to hike, ride ATVs, and build campfires. You can tell how much their family loves it when I ask them what it's like out here at night.
Amazing. It was fun. You get full view of the stars. It's like,
because like there's no city lights out here, so you get to no pollution, stuff like that. So you get to see like clear sky. You can see all the stars and stuff. It was fun.
13-year-old Fahim has some ideas for his property.
You can build like ATVs like around like, the whole thing. It's like once you build a zip line from the mountain.
And even though they're right beside the border wall, they've had no problems. Out here, these city kids enjoy
No
their
problems.
own private
Getting victims.
You got fresh water, you got clear skies. At night, you can see all of the stars, the moon, the sunrise is beautiful.
In Boulevard, this is Anna Laurel for CBS 8.
So, I spoke to former 24-year veteran of the Customs and Border Protection who was stationed right there. Okay, and JJ Carroll told me today. He said no one lives in Boulevard except longtime border residents and people wanting to be criminals. He said, "Quote: Would you ever buy your son land on our border? Crime, violence, rapes, murders, drug cartels, human smuggling cartels, all day, all night on your property."
No, not unless you like those things.
Right, unless that's part of your business plan.
Right.
Right?
I don't think
really
so.
Hate your kid.
Right. You want a timeshare in Boulevard, California, right on the border wall, where cartels are bringing kids across right there for you? I mean, it's a perfect opportunity. Buy up the land.
Now, that video is still live on CBS 8's YouTube page. I feel like I could show it to you. I should show you the landing page in case you want to find it yourself, because they presumably have not realized what they have there as a feel-good news piece is probably evidence of human trafficking. If they were good reporters, they would know that the man they just featured here is named in the Lil Rod lawsuit for being Diddy's fixer in a sex ring. So maybe they should at least put some kind of note on that video or follow it up. I left a comment
I'm
there.
glad it's still there.
Alerting them to it.
Most of the time, these news organizations try to hide the fact and they delete it and get rid of it.
Oh,
so,
I downloaded it. So
we have
there
it.
we go.
Have it saved. Yeah,
okay, so what we're dealing with here is deep and extensive and an old conspiracy, not a theory, a real conspiracy to sell your soul to the devil to become famous in the music industry. And who else is connected? Well, Lil Rod's lawsuit names Cuba Gooding Jr. as an active participant in the freak-off parties. Yeah, it also mentions Usher. We also know that Combs has produced other big acts such as Mary J. Blige, Lil' Kim, Biggie Smalls. We know that he dated Jennifer Lopez. Maybe that's why she's so keen to get her divorce in the headlines right now, to sort of divert from the fact that she was associated with him over 20 years ago. Now, Lucian Grange and Universal Music were originally named in the Lil Rod lawsuit, but they were removed as defendants, and the government in the federal indictment does not mention them. But Prosecutor Williams does say that the government is not done here. In fact, he makes it seem as though they are just getting started. So perhaps they will. The government says they have enough here to keep Combs behind bars for a lifetime. They're asking him to forfeit pretty much all of his possessions. The big question here is, how deep will this go, and will Combs live to tell? Will he live to name names? Since he is essentially the Epstein of the music industry, will we ever get a client list, or will that, like the Epstein list that is buried with him, fizzle out and die? Now, My sort of silver lining here is that maybe this is the government trying to make it right. Maybe if we can find a connection between Epstein and Combs, which it seems like won't be too hard to find, then we get it all. Maybe the bad guys sort of took it from the good guys, and the good guys are saying we get another chance with Diddy. How about that? Maybe this. Maybe, right?
Maybe.
This is a big fat maybe. Combs' lawyer says that, again, he's going to fight for his release. But if he does not get released, he should insist on round-the-clock cameras in his holding cells. Maybe we should all want to watch that just to keep this guy alive. The rest of us should want this too, because we need to see how deep it all goes. And in the meantime, I'm driving in silence. I never want to listen to commercial music again. I don't know what to do with this. This is just dirty and awful. And you know that what we get to see is only a sliver.
I'll sing you a song.
I mean, I would be surprised though if anything happened to him, because he's quote unquote new money. And where Epstein was dealing mostly with like the old money, like the more like political influencers and power, where like the entertainment industry, like it could very well be that they're gonna throw the book at him and make sure he goes to jail and be like, see, we do go after these people, so that they don't have to go after the people that actually have the power, so they can just go after these guys and make an example of them rather than have to deal with the Epstein blowback.
Yeah,
and the much deeper connections here. Like I'm not saying that he's a good guy, but that he would become the fall guy in this, the sort of the scapegoat, and then all of the other people that we were wondering if they'd be a part of this indictment are not. Yeah. They're not listed here. So does he take the fall for this? And is this like a CIA operation? They're like, we're going after this guy so that this story gets buried.
Right.
We're able to bury all the rest of this information, especially if there's some kind of a deal worked out. Then this stuff will always be buried.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do actually want his lawyer to keep saying he's innocent and we're going to fight it so that we see everything that the government has found. Then the more they fight, the more we get to see. If he takes a plea deal, we don't get to see that evidence. This doesn't play out in front of us. I'm going to hold out that this is the tip of the iceberg, and we do have good forces trying to root this out and save people from this ever happening again. But I mean, I don't know, like, who comes up with the idea for a freak off? Is that something that's been passed down from previous generations that have sold their soul to the devil in order to be famous, right? And there are a lot of people that their names come up as they were made famous because they were connected to these dark force type ceremonial. I read this whole thing today about, I don't want to name, I'm not going to name names right now because I don't want to allege anything else. But you think about how these people are given fame and other people who are just as talented working for it but will not sell out. And in all industries, how deep does it go? Does it go into, movies, TV, music, news industry, that kind of thing? It's deep and dark. And so, okay, we got some of it. Some people have been waiting for years to see this. And so this is what we got right now.